You picture the 1940s man handling stress with a cigarette and a stiff drink, jaw clenched, feelings bricked up behind a wall he never opened. That's the comfortable story, and it's wrong. He wasn't bottling it up. He was discharging it every single day through his body without ever once calling it stress relief. We think the answer is to talk it out. His answer was in his hands, and we threw it away. Here's the thing that ties this whole video together, and I'll prove it to you piece by piece. Stress isn't really an emotion. It's a physical event. Your body dumps adrenaline and cortisol to get you ready to fight something or run from something, and then it expects you to move, to burn it off. The 1940s man burned it off all day long without thinking about it, because his entire life was built out of movement, daylight, routine, and work he could finish with his own two hands. He didn't manage stress. He outran it before it could pool. And he did it through a stack of small, ordinary habits. None of them therapy, none of them expensive, every one of them now nearly extinct. We didn't get weaker. We sat down. We moved indoors. We swapped the body's natural reset for a glowing rectangle that keeps the alarm bell ringing all night. And understand what he was carrying. This was a man who had lived through a depression that wiped out his family's savings and a world war that took his brothers and his friends. If anyone had a right to be a wreck, it was him. He had less money, less comfort, and less safety than you do, and a steadier head than most men you know. That's the puzzle this whole list solves. So I'm going to count down 10 things the 1940s man did to keep his head right, and the one habit underneath all of them, the one we lost most completely, which I'll save for the end. We're counting down. Number 10 first. Hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to learn might change how you think about why you feel wound up all the time and can't say why. Number 10. He got the news once a day, and then he was done. Here's a habit that sounds almost impossible now. The 1940s man got the war news from one radio bulletin in the evening and one newspaper in the morning. That was it. The world's troubles arrived in a fixed dose, at a fixed time, and then the set went quiet, and the paper went in the bin. He was not carrying every disaster on the planet around in his pocket, refreshing it at every red light. Think about how strange that is by today's standards. Modern psychologists have a name for what we do instead. They call it doom scrolling, and the strain is real enough that therapists coined the term headline stress disorder. The American Psychological Association has warned outright that media overload is eroding our mental health. A constant drip of crisis that the nervous system cannot tell apart from a constant threat. And here is the kicker. The 1940s man faced bigger, more terrifying headlines than you ever will. A literal world war. He just refused to marinate in them around the clock. He did not have to set screen time limits or delete an app. The technology to drown him in bad news simply had not been built yet. The dose ended, and so did the dread. Number 9. He sang and whistled while he worked. Picture the era and you can almost hear it. Men whistling on the walk to the gate, humming over the workbench. Whole crews and assembly lines singing together to keep the rhythm of the job. It looks like a charming little nothing. It is actually one of the most direct nervous system hacks ever discovered. Here is the mechanism. Singing and humming send vibrations through your throat and chest, and those vibrations physically stimulate the vagus nerve, the body's master brake, the switch that flips you out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. Research in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that singing measurably lowers cortisol. And when men sang together, their brains released endorphins and oxytocin, the same bonding chemistry that pulls a group of strangers into a band of brothers. A whistling man isn't just passing the time. He is downshifting his own stress chemistry, one breath at a time. He did not know he was stimulating his vagus nerve. He just knew a man sings when his heart is light, and never noticed that sometimes the singing is what makes it light in the first place. A whistle was the cheapest medicine in the shop. Number 8. He lived by a fixed routine. Same time up, same breakfast, same route, same shift, same supper, same chair, same bedtime. To a modern man, that sounds like a prison. To the nervous system, it's a gift. Here's the mechanism. Plain. The anxious brain is a prediction machine, and what frightens it most is uncertainty. A rigid routine starves anxiety of its favorite fuel. When the body already knows what comes next, it doesn't have to keep the alarm half-armed all day. Decision by decision, the routine quietly told his nervous system, "You are safe. You know what happens now." He didn't call it lowering his baseline stress. He just kept regular hours and called it being a steady man. We chase novelty and variety and wonder why we feel frayed. He chased sameness, and it held him together. Number 7. He spent the day in the dirt and the open air, the garden, the field, the yard, the walk to the woodlot. The 1940s man's hours were spent largely outside, hands in soil, lungs in real air, not sealed in a climate-controlled box under humming fluorescent light. Modern science gave this a name borrowed from Japan. Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. A 2019 review pulling together study after study found that time among trees measurably lowers salivary cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, compared with time in the city. Park's original field experiments across 24 Japanese forests found the same drop again and again. And it isn't only the hormone. In 2015, Stanford researchers sent one group on a 90-minute walk through nature and another along a busy road. The nature group came back with measurably less rumination, that grinding loop of anxious, self-critical thought, and quieter activity in the exact part of the brain tied to that loop. The road group got nothing. Same steps, different medicine. Dirt and trees aren't decoration. They're a sedative the body recognizes. And in his day, this was no rare hobby. It was half the country. By 1944, Americans were tending close to 20 million victory gardens, backyard and vacant lot plots that grew somewhere around 40% of all the fresh vegetables eaten in the entire nation. Picture that. Half your neighbors on their knees in the soil after work, getting a daily dose of the one thing a screen can never give you. They thought they were growing food. They were also growing calm. He didn't have the cortisol readings. He just knew a day in the garden settled something a day indoors never could. Number 6. He took one full day off, completely. Sunday, or whatever his day was, the tools went down and they stayed down. No catching up. No just one quick thing. A real, total stop. Church, a big meal, a slow afternoon, a nap in the chair. The work did not follow him in through the door because the work could not fit through the door. It stayed at the shop. This is what recovery science now hammers on constantly. The stress response is only healthy if it's allowed to switch off. The body needs the full swing back to rest and digest, the parasympathetic side, to repair what the week wore down. One guaranteed day of true off pulled him all the way back to baseline before Monday started the cycle again. And the whole world helped him keep it. Back then, the shops were shut on Sunday. The so-called blue laws meant there was often nowhere to go and nothing to buy, even if you wanted to. The town itself rested. You couldn't be productive because the doors were locked, so you sat on the porch, you visited, you did nothing, and nobody felt guilty about it. Compare that to now, when every store, every screen, and every side hustle is open around the clock, and a quiet Sunday feels almost like laziness. He had a break the entire society pressed for him. We took the break off and called it convenience. He didn't call it parasympathetic recovery. He called it the Sabbath, or just the day of rest, and he guarded it. Number 5. He left work at work. When the whistle blew, it was over. There was no email in his pocket. No boss 2 thumbs away at 9 at night. The factory could not phone the kitchen. Whatever went wrong on the floor stayed on the floor until morning. And the man who walked home all the way. Body and mind both clocked out. We lost this one almost completely, and the cost is enormous. A stress response that never gets the all-clear signal never fully stands down. The modern man carries a low hum of work alarm into dinner, into bed, into his sleep, because the device keeps the door propped open. The 1940s man's stress had a hard edge, a fence, a closing time, a point past which the job could not reach him. He didn't have boundaries because he was disciplined. He had them because the technology to violate them hadn't been invented yet. The question is whether you'll rebuild on purpose what he had by default. And think about what that protected. When he sat down to supper, he was all the way there, not half listening while one eye checked a screen under the table. When he lay down at night, the job genuinely could not reach him, so his body got the signal it was finally allowed to stand down. You haven't had a single evening like that in years, and you've stopped noticing it's missing. The low hum became the weather. He never lived in that weather a day in his life. Number 4. He had something absorbing to do with his hands. Whittling, fixing the truck, tying flies, working the bench in the garage, tending the workshop. Off the clock, the 1940s man did not collapse onto a couch to be entertained. He picked up a task that demanded just enough of his full attention to crowd everything else out. Psychologists call that state flow. Total absorption in a hands-on task that's challenging but doable. In flow, the anxious inner monologue simply goes quiet because the mind only has room for the work in front of it. It's one of the most reliable off switches for a churning head that human beings have ever found. And he stumbled into it every evening without a single book on the subject. He did not call it flow. He called it puttering. And it was the cheapest therapy ever invented. But the deepest one, the habit that powers half this list, is still coming. Stay with me to number 1. Number 3. He ate at a table with people. Supper was not a thing you did alone with one hand on a phone. It was a fixed gathering. The whole family, the same time, plates passed, the day talked over. Even a boarding house man ate elbow to elbow with other men at a common table. Sitting down to eat in company does quiet physiological work. The body reads safe, familiar faces as a signal to drop its guard, to shift out of alert and into rest and digest. The very state that lets food settle and the nerves unwind. A shared meal is a daily, built-in dose of the thing the longest studies on human health keep naming as the master variable: connection. He didn't call the family table co-regulation. He just knew you don't eat good food angry, and you don't stay angry long at a full table. Number 2, he slept with the dark. When the sun went down, the world dimmed. A lamp, maybe a radio, then bed. Early and long. There was no 4 in the morning scroll, no blue light pinning his brain to daytime at midnight. He went down with the dark and rose with the light, the way the body was built to run. And sleep is where the stress system does its repair. The same research that links exercise to lower cortisol links solid, regular sleep to a calmer stress response the next day, while broken, short, late sleep keeps cortisol elevated and the fuse short. Every one of the habits on this list fed his sleep, and his sleep fed every one of them back. It was a wheel that turned the right way. He did not track his sleep. He just kept farmer's hours, and farmer's hours kept him level. Quick thing before the last one. If this has been worth your time, do one small channel favor and tap that like button. It is the single move that helps this reach the next man who needs to hear it. All right, here's the one that ties it all together. Number 1, the habit underneath all the others, the one we lost most completely. He worked with his hands hard every single day. Here's the truth. Modern life hides from you. Stress is a physical charge, adrenaline and cortisol, your body dumps them to power muscle. It is built to be spent. The 1940s man spent it without trying. Lifting, hauling, digging, building, repairing, from sunup to sundown. The charge never had a chance to pool because his body did exactly what bodies are designed to do with it. Work it off. And it goes deeper than burning energy. The neuroscientist Kelly Lambert spent years studying what she calls the effort-driven reward circuit. And she found that physical effort with your hands, effort that produces a visible result, is one of the most powerful antidepressants the brain owns. When you dig a row, fix an engine, or build a shelf, your brain ties the effort to the outcome and rewards you with a deep sense of control over your world. Lambert found her own way out of a dark spell not in a pill, but in scrubbing her house, because the dirt that disappeared proved her effort mattered. That's the engine the modern man unplugged. We sit. We type. We move pixels that never become a thing we can hold. The work never ends and never shows. So the charge has nowhere to go, and the reward circuit that says your effort matters never fires. We didn't get more fragile. We stopped using the one system that drained the pressure and refilled the meaning at the same time. Think about your own week. How many hours did your body actually work? Lift something heavy. Build something real. Come home wrung out in the muscles instead of just the mind. For most men now, the honest answer is close to zero. Your grandfather couldn't have answered zero if he tried. His back ached, his hands were rough, and his head was quiet. Yours is smooth-handed and loud. That is not a coincidence. That is the trade we made, and almost nobody told us we were making it. He didn't have Lambert's brain science or the cortisol charts. He had a body that worked hard, finished things, and slept like the dead. And it kept him sane in a century that had every reason to break him. They didn't have the studies. They had the work. We have the studies, and we sit down. Here's the part nobody tells you. The cigarettes and the whiskey were never the medicine. Those were the parts that killed those men early. The daylight, the work, the rest. That was the medicine. And it was never some lost breed of willpower you had to be born with. It was just how a man spent his hours. Which means you can start spending yours the same way tomorrow. Stress was never meant to be talked away. It was meant to be worked off. So before you click away, tell me one thing down in the comments. Which are you bringing back first? A walk in the trees or an hour with your hands? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.